Hello, my name's John. I have here a cup of organic fair trade Guatemala dark roast, topped off with some organic half and half produced locally from free range happy cows. Yes, welcome to Oregon. Let's write some code. Hello, hope you're doing well. What I'm going to talk about in this video is how to generate meaningful test data. If you're a developer or you work in QA, this is probably something you've run into quite a bit. The problem being that you have a blank database and you need to seed it with some data for development and testing purposes. I happen to have a contract at a place as we speak, and that's actually what gave me the idea for this video. They have a database of 8 million names, and they've done what I'm showing you here in this slide. The first name in the database is first name 1, last name 1, and the 8 millionth one is first name 8 million, last name 8 million. This is not a very good way of doing things. I mean, they're doing it, it works for them, but from my point of view, I don't like doing this. For one thing, it is not a very good representation of the real world. So if you have to do some benchmarking, load balancing, or things like that, it doesn't give you very accurate results. It's also not very good if you have to take some screenshots. Where I'm working the other day, the technical writer wanted to take some screenshots. She was a little perturbed that all the names look funny and all the data doesn't look like real world data. And then of course, if you have to demo it for a client or an upper manager or something like that, it looks quite unprofessional. So what to do? Well, we don't want to use real personal information because we're violating people's privacy if we do that. So one solution that I like to do, and I think is a good solution, is to take a list of real seed data and then randomly generate the test data from that. So then you end up with a file that looks like it's got real names and social security numbers, birth dates, and whatever, but it's really not. It's computer generated. So that's what I'm going to show you how to do in this video today. Now the first thing you're going to need to do is find a list of names. So let's start with the first names. Let's see, I'm going to do a search for list of 1,000 most common baby names. Let's see, I'm just going to open a few of these and we can look through them. I don't like that one. I don't like that one. So here's a good one. I like this one because it's got the it's got a nice list we can copy and paste easily. It's got the boys' names on one side, the girls' names on another side. So I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste this into Excel. Okay, now you can see that we've got, well, we got most of them. Let's see what happened here. Something weird happened there. Let's do that. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and get rid of the columns that I don't want. Okay, and next I'm going to, these are the boys' names over here. I'm going to separate the boys' names and put them down below the girls' names. And now I'm going to insert a row here. I'm going to call this first name. I'm going to call this column gender. And now I'm going to copy and put the gender. Okay, so now see what I have here is I've got my names in Excel. The first column is first name. The second column is gender. I put an F next to all the female names and I put an M next to all the male names. So now I'm going to go ahead and save this this guy. You can leave it as Excel if you want. I've found you can sometimes avoid some problems if you just save it as comma delimited ASCII. So I'm going to save it as first names.csv. And now we're going to do a similar thing for the last names. Okay, so here you can see I found one. I don't like this, that it's all in all caps, but we can fix that in a minute. So I'm going to go ahead and grab this one. This one looks good. Okay, I'm actually glad that happened. Look what happened here. You can see that Excel pasted all of the data onto the first row. So I've found that happens to me sometimes and other times it doesn't. no worries. We're going to just go ahead and save it as a text file. So I'm going to go ahead and import that into Excel. We want to go to Data, Import from Text. Now we got our last names, we got our first names, we got our column named. When we import it into SQL Server, it's going to use these two as the field name, and it's going to use the name of the file as the table name. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to import this into SQL Server. So I've got my database here. I named it personnel. I'm going to go down, right click, and I'm going to say tasks, import data. Okay, now since I saved it as common to limited ASCII, we're not going to want to select Excel here. We're going to want to select flat file data source and then browse to our location, and we're good. 2,000 rows. Okay, and now we're going to import the last names, import data. Okay, we got an error, and I know what that is. That's good, actually, that happened, because now you can see how to fix that if that happens to you. What it's complaining about is it's telling me one of these columns is too big for the data size. And let's just look and see. There it is, right there. See? So that was our garbage right there. So we're going to delete that row and do it again. Okay, good. 1,000 rows. So we got 2,000 first names, 1,000 last names. Okay, so I think we're pretty good, but as I mentioned before, star from last names, it's in all caps. See that? I don't like all caps, so I'm going to fix that. And just double check. Okay, so now we got upper lowercase, so we're good. All right, so we're almost ready to create the data, but we need to create a unique ID for these tables. So I'm going to go into the table designer, and I'm going to insert a column here, and I'm going to call it ID. It's going to be an int. It's going to be a primary key, and it's going to be an identity column, identity specification. So just click this here, and I'm going to save it. I'm going to do the same thing for last names. That gave us a unique ID field for each one of these, and the first one is 1 and the last one is whatever. The ID field matches the record number, so we're going to use that ID field to pick a random first name and a random last name. Alright, well, we're ready to write the Sprock, but I thought I'd go over the random number generator real quick in case you're not familiar with it. This is how it works in SQL Server, and in fact most if not all random number generators work this way. When you run it, you're going to get a number between 0 and less than 1. So 0.9, yep, but never 1. It can equal 0, but it'll never equal 1. So let's suppose we want a number between 0 and 100. We can declare an integer, and so when that'll chop off the decimal portion and set num equals rand. Now if we do this, it's always going to be 0, which is not too useful because it's going to chop the decimal point. But if we multiply it by, say, 100, now we will find that we are getting a number between 0 and 99. Okay, and so if you want a number between 1 and 100, you can just add a 1 or whatever. That's the y-intercept, so you just add whatever you want there, and that'll give you your bottom range. Okay, so we're going to use that to generate our test data. Let's take a look at the Sprock. I already wrote it just for time considerations, but I'll go over it here. You can see that it sets a parameter of the number of records, and that's defaulting to 1,000. So if you call the procedure create names with no parameter, you're going to get 1,000. Otherwise, you can pass integer, and I'm going to do 8 million just because I said I could. Now, up here I'm just declaring some variables. Noteworthy is this one here where I'm saying give me the number of first names in the table, and I'm getting that by selecting the maximum of the ID field. So that's going to give me the last ID field in first names, which is also equal to the number of items in that table. Similarly, I'm doing a similar thing for last names. Give me the max ID from last names. Okay, so then we pop down to this loop here. Okay, so you can see here I'm taking the first name ID randomly generated. I'm saying give me a random number between 1 and the number of first names, and that's going to be the record that I use. Similarly, give me a randomly generated ID field between 1 and the number of last names. So now once I have that, recall that the first name and gender are in the same table and related. So I get my first name and gender for the first names table. I get a last name from the last names table. And now I'm going to generate a social security number here. Keep in mind that this is in the form like this. Alright, so we want 3 digits from 0 to 9. Recall that it's going to be, the upper bound here will be 9 unless I was to add 1 to it. So 3 digits 0 to 9, a dash, 2 digits, a dash, and 4 more digits. For generating the date, here's a simple way of generating a random date. I'm saying give me a random number between 0 and this is approximately the number of days in 50 years. So I'm ignoring leap year. I don't care if it's the exact number, but roughly this is going to give me a day between 0 and the number of days in 50 years. So I'm adding that to 1950, January 1st, 1950. And so this is going to give me a date anywhere from January 1st, 1950 to approximately January 1st, 2000. For the middle initial, I want a randomly generated character between A and Z. So I'm saying give me a random number between 0 and 26 and then add that to the ASCII value for uppercase A. And that's going to give me something between A and Z. Now once we have all that, we just insert it into the data, decrement the counter, and continue. So I'm going to go ahead and create the procedure, and now I'm going to create a database with 8 million names. Okay, so num records 8 million. Hold your breath, crush fingers, here we go. Alright, well here's our database of 8 million names, and as you can see, the astute observer might notice that it's actually not 8 million names, it's 16 million names. It's because I forgot to truncate the table after I did my rehearsal, but no worries, we got 16 million names. You can see they look pretty reasonable. We got, valid looking dates of birth, social security numbers, and everything else. So you can see it's relatively easy. It only takes a few minutes, and it sure makes your demos and your screenshots and everything look a lot nicer to do it this way. And if you liked the video, why not subscribe? Hey, it only hurts a little bit for just a little while. Anyway, thanks for watching. See you next time.